I've known Phyllis Hunter for a long time. I went to visit her school, and when she was a principal in Houston, and the office staff could not find her. And this was problematic. And they said, well, maybe you will go look for her as well. And I went with one of the assistants in the office, and there was Phyllis co-teaching with one of her teachers in the classroom. Yeah. That's Phyllis Hunter. I've never forgotten that. I don't know how many years ago that was, Phyllis. Phyllis is a learner and a teacher, and she continues that to this day. She speaks across the United States and beyond. She not only was a principal in Houston, but she was in charge of reading manager in Houston's an enormous district, and she did a great job improving literacy across the community, which includes the schools. She's been a consultant to the Texas statewide reading initiative. When former President Bush referred to reading as the new civil right, he was quoting Phyllis Hunter. He actually attributed that to her. And she's had her own consulting and has her own consulting company. The thing we're proudest of, the fact, is that we, with her as author, are distributing Phyllis Hunter libraries across the country. She is an avid reader. Please welcome Phyllis Hunter.
I knew that I would now. I feel good. I always start this way. So good, 'cause I got all you. It makes me feel nice, a little like sugar and spice. I do feel nice, like sugar and spice. So nice, 'cause I got you. You see, you're important to me. So give a fist bump to the person sitting next to you, your colleague, the person you just met, and say this. Isn't it a great day to be alive in South Beach talking about faith? You see, the key word in that phrase, certainly, faith is important, family and community engagements. That's why we got you all here today. But the more important word is the word what? Alive. Brother, you got that right. Because any day that you are alive, it's a doggone good day. Any day that your bed, as comfortable as it might have been, was not your cooling board, then today's a good day. See? Because if you are alive, that means you can change. And that's what life is. Life is being able to change. The other more important thing is that for some reason, we don't know. Could be serendipity, could be your calling, I don't know why, but you're here right now representing some kids that their futures have been entrusted to you. You got up this morning and what you're doing is important to those kids. They're depending on you to help them. You could be doing anything else. You could be in Canada watching the Miami Dolphins, but you're not. All right? You could be walking out on South Beach wearing a bikini, but you're not. You're here for a reason. All right? Some people say that's an awful thought, right? All right. But you're here for a reason, and I think it's because you're going to gain information, knowledge, strategies that are important to the job that you're put here to do. You know Dr. Martin Luther King, and you know his legacy. One day he walked into the office of Benjamin Mays and said, I don't think I want to be a preacher. My daddy's been a preacher, and he's done everything that you can do in preaching, so what is there left for me to do? And Dr. Mays, president of Morehouse College, looked at Martin Luther King, a young Martin, and he said, Martin, in life, there's some things that are yours to do and nobody else can do them. So I say to you today, there's some things to be done in your district, your organization, that are yours to do and no one else can do them. And that is why you find yourselves here today. Now, I have been doing this for a while, so I know some good stuff about what can happen out there. I know that we can change things. I know you already know enough to make changes. It's not complicated, and I wrote a book called that. But I'm going to tell you, yeah, and it's an easy read. I wouldn't write a book called It's Not Complicated and make it hard to read. That's stupid. I don't do stupid stuff, all right? So I do want to point out to you that among you at this Scholastic event, and Scholastic is I work with them, I don't work for them. But in working with them, they are one of the finest companies that I collaborate with because they respect us as educators. They respect you and how they treat you. They bring you to the Ritz-Carlton in Miami, all right? When the weather is nice, right? They bring you. So one of the things that you may not recognize that I recognize because I've been working with them for a long time is that in the audience are account executives, directors, vice presidents who nobody ever calls their names, but they have been sitting through these kinds of professional development experiences. They know stuff, people, and they can help you. They can help you reach the goals that you want to reach. Every superintendent I talk to says, Phyllis, I want to raise my reading scores. I haven't met one in the 3-year tenure that they're there. If they're there more than 3 years, I probably don't get to talk to them, you know. But in 3 years, it hasn't said, I want to raise my reading scores. And I can tell you that there are people in this room that will help you. See, I don't work for Scholastic. Nobody asked me to say that, but would they please stand up? Account executives, nobody ever says what a wealth of information. They just kind of hide behind. These are good people. Thank you. Anybody recognize this guy, Bob Slavin? He was the one who did the research that said if our kids are reading well by what grade? 3rd grade, they have less than a 25% chance of ever not making up that. I used to work with him, and one day he came to hear me talk at the International Reading Association. And he said, Phyllis, you get to talk 2 years in a row. I said, yeah, I know, I got it like that. You know? He said, I don't even get to talk 2 years in a row. He said, but while you're talking, please sure to be telling them that we know what to do. We know how to teach kids to read. But we don't do it every day in every classroom for every child. That's the problem. It's not that we don't know what to do, it's that we don't make it happen for every Jennifer, Abdullah, Jose, and Rebecca. He said, that's the problem. I said, okay, I will try to do that, Bob. He said, you are like Franklin Delano Roosevelt said, you have the bully pulpit. And once you have the bully pulpit, and I got that today, that's why I welcomed you in with James, because I got you. You have a bully pulpit, you need to use it. You need to be able to say what you have learned. And like I said, I'm 67, we'll be 68, and I can say what the heck I want. See? Because when you get that age, you tell the truth about it. Now, in looking at this, we've had a number of initiatives to Reading by 9. LA had one, the newspapers had one, because they knew they were losing readership if they didn't teach kids to read. All right? So we have had a number of initiatives, but we still haven't done it yet. We've talked about it, we've jump-started it, but still in America, we're not sure that every kid is reading well by 9 years old, even though we know what their future is if they don't read well. So I'm not going to leave it alone. Some people just change stuff for the sake of changing it. Not me. I'm still on this. We can still do this. If you're in a state that has an initiative that says we're going to fail everybody who doesn't pass 3rd grade reading, that's so stupid. You know, the research says When you fail kids, keep them back. It doesn't do anything but make them overage. It doesn't make them more successful. It says that they will probably be in special ed. It says that you're starting the elementary to penitentiary pipeline. And then in spite of all that, they still pass a law. It says if the kid's not reading in third grade. Well, you know what? If they don't do it by the time third grade, they should go to jail. You know? Because it is not the kid's fault. When I first started in Houston ISD, the way I got the superintendent's attention was they were failing thousands of kids in first grade. And I said, this is ridiculous. It's not the kid's fault in first grade if they can't read. It's our fault. We didn't do what we were supposed to do. He said, who are you? I said, well, I just came from California and I don't care, but I know how to teach kids to read. He said, really? I said, yeah, I know how to do it. Phonics, phonemic and phonological awareness. He said, what's that? I said, I'm going to teach you. You know? So it can be done. We can do it. Now, I should have a good speech because they're paying me. You know, I don't regret anybody getting a check now. So in a good speech, it says, tell them what you're going to tell them. Then you tell them, and then you tell them what you told them. That's also a good summarization at the end, all right? Here we go. So in an effort to tell you what I'm going to tell you, these are Phyllis C. Hunterisms, and here's the first one. Even though I'm talking a lot about reading and family and community engagement, it's also a lot about oral language. It's about how you talk to the parents. It's about how you talk to and with the kids. It's a lot about talk. Language is what will bind us together or what will pull us apart. So oral language is key. So yes, I'm going to talk a lot about oral language. The second thing I'm going to talk about is alphabetic materials. It's only 26 letters to give kids trouble and learn how to read. Even if they think LMNOP is one letter, that's okay. The second part of that is 0 to 3. Even if you are not working with pre-K and lower, even if that's not where you are, still be concerned about that. Because what we know now, what the research tells us now, is that brain is so elastic that if you don't pull it and stretch it during 0 to 3, you will have a much more difficult time later. So if you are an elementary school, send home something about the alphabet and how you want kids to know the alphabet when they come to school. Not just that you want them to know their name. Pookie's name is not Pookie. He needs to know his name when he gets there. He needs to know that his mama's name is not Mama, too. All right? That's something you got to give the parents. Tell them what you want them to know. And that's one thing you want them to know. Do not send us any kids that don't have familiarity with the alphabet. Parents say that the way to involve them is be so specific about what it is they need to do. Now, in case nobody has told them, on your watch, make sure you tell them the alphabet is important. Don't send me any kids that haven't been exposed to the alphabet. Even if those magnetic letters are falling off your refrigerator, it's okay. You know you can buy paper towels with the alphabet on it now. It's no excuse. Kids have to come with that because you have to teach them to read by third grade. Intervene early and often with a proven program. What does that mean? That means that all this stuff people are trying to sell you, make sure it works with the kids you got. Not the kids you used to have. You don't have them anymore. Not the ones you wish you had. They're in the charter schools, all right? Because their parents know enough to go out and seek something that's going to have particular impact on them. But they also don't know that as soon as that kid does the wrong thing, jumps down the stairs, they're going to come right back to you after they got the money. After they got the money. All right? And if I'm offending any charter schools, I'm not talking about you. All right? When you're through changing, you're through. Every teacher well prepared and knowledgeable. Because good won't do when great is possible. Get the best teachers you can get. And then professionally develop them. Not with the spray and pray. We just gonna spray some stuff around, hope it takes. Have a plan for professional development of your teachers. And make sure you let them know that you expect them to continue to grow. If there's a teacher who won't let anybody in their classroom, they have one little window and they cover that with construction paper, tell them to stop that. Because you have to get in order to make sure that they are continuing to grow, because you want the best for the children entrusted to you. Next, what scientific research needs is a good book. Of course, you want to pay attention to what research has found out, but research is nothing if you don't have access to good quality literature in the classroom. Good books in the classroom. I believe in this so firmly that one time when I was up late in Houston Independent School District putting together some lists by grade level, I said, why the heck am I doing this? This should already be done. And I got out my Scholastic catalog and they didn't have it in there. So the next time I was in New York with Scholastic, I said, you all need to have grade list libraries already created. And they said, Phyllis, why don't you do that? I said, all right. Hey, we can get this done. And that's how the Phyllis C libraries were created. I'm not here to sell you nothing. You don't have to buy it. I don't care. Change can happen quickly. Don't say, we will do this next year. We will do this when the teacher's contract. We will have family and community engagement when we get a chance to bring the community together. Do it now. You can do it now if you but decide that you're going to do it now. I left Houston one time. I fly in and out to work, and I came back, and they had built a runway. And I said, what happened? It wasn't built when I left. And the sky cap said, oh, Miss Hunter, you know, they wanted to do it. He said, because we are expecting to get a Super Bowl, and we want to get this, and they wanted to have the runway built, so they built it overnight. See, when people want to change, they can change at the drop of a hat. Change can happen quickly. If you still don't believe me, look at a picture of yourself from 5 years ago. You believe me. Programs don't teach, teachers do. You need great programs, but more importantly, you need the best staff and the best leadership out there. All the research says the most important variable in the classroom is the what? The teacher. So if you have anything to do with that, make sure you get that part right. Is it dyslexia or dystardia? I put this in still because too many of our kids are being labeled dyslexic, and we haven't taught them yet. And you start them on a path of destruction when you do that. Sometimes our kids who are labeled for special ed, labeled because they can't read, do you know that some of them get checks from Social Security? Anybody know that? Now, I told you I'm not mad about anybody getting paid. But what you start when this kid brings in a check because they are disabled, how soon do you think they're going to get rid of that label? Parents called me once and said, my kid has been put out of the reading class for special kids because he learned to read. I said, isn't that great? She said, no, I want you to put him back in there because we will lose our Social Security. Now, this is a dirty little secret. Everybody's not going to tell you this. But I'm telling you because you may be in a position to stop. If we put 25% of our kids in special ed, there's nothing special about it. If we over-identify our African-American males in special ed, guess what happens? You start that elementary to penitentiary track. Because once I think I have nothing to lose because I'm too dumb to learn, believe me, I will act out. And you and I will pay. Because we haven't done all we could for the kids entrusted to us. All right. Put your heart into it. Have passion for what you do in this job. Because if you don't have passion for it, you're fired. You know? Donald Trump will tell you that. Well, he's too busy right now. He's doing other stuff. But have passion for it. Or decide to do something else, because it's passion is what's going to lead you to be successful. Because if you're passionate about it, you'll find a way to make it work. You'll find a way to get family and community engagement going, because you have passion for it. You believe in it. Put your heart in it. When I go into these schools, I hear a lot of things, and one thing I hear is a bestseller right now, and it's called Doodle-Lacka. It goes like this: due to the lack of the fact that these parents don't come to school, doodle-lacka, we did all we could. Doodle-lacka, we sent home one notice and nobody showed up. Doodle-lacka. I hear that all over. Doodle-lacka blues. I was in Chicago, and things weren't going well with the reading. And I said, well, what kind of things did you? Well, due to the lack of the fact it snowed. I said, wait, I grew up in Chicago. It snows in Chicago. You should have been expecting that. They said, well, it snowed a lot, Phyllis. So you're going to hear a lot of excuses why people can't do things. Don't listen. Just put your head down and keep working, keep designing, keep planning, because they're going to sing that. Now, the Pope had a very lovely time in America, did he not? Millions of people turned out. And so I was thinking about the Pope. I was raised Catholic. Those nuns had a ruler on my hands all the time. But I write well. I get a kick out of this myself. Anyway, and I was thinking that, the question that you hear sometimes is, why don't these parents come to school? Why don't they come and engage with us? And we have a lot of reasons. I don't know why they don't come. We did this, we invited them, we did this. And I thought we should be like the Pope and say, who am I to judge? They have their reasons, don't they? Who am I to judge? But we should just do what? He said we should have actions that assist. So instead of judging the parents and saying, ain't it awful, they should have, we should just assist. We should give them concrete things that they can use and need. We should point them in the direction of information that will allow them to bring their kids further. And, I have some examples. This came in the mail. Every person in the country who gets those little packets of coupons, you ever got those? You look at one of them and throw the rest of them away. I mean, you know how you do that. This was in there. Free Scholastic books. One box top equal 2 books. Did we run these off and put them in there so parents could see it? Did we send it home the first day of school? Because they're buying Kellogg's products. So they could have gotten some books. We could have assisted instead of saying, these kids don't have any books at home. They don't ever practice reading. We could have assisted. One of the most popular things I did when I was head of reading in HISD, and, that was a job, all right, being head of reading in HISD. I had some teachers who started every sentence with, it's been 25 years, and I've been here 25 years, and I haven't changed, and when you leave, I'll still be here. And I said, you are exactly right, because I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I'm going to do me, and I'm going to step right over you while we get this done. But one of the things that I did was I sent home an at-home reading list and I sent it home by grade level. See, parents understand grade level. But on the list, I put some books above grade level and some below. That's the way my libraries are. And I did it in Spanish and English because I recognized that Houston had changed. People used to think that Houston was 60% Anglo, and right under their nose, it became 65% Hispanic. And still people thought, this is an Anglo district. No, it's not. Not anymore. But they thought. So I did it in Spanish and English. I sent it home. Parents called me and said, this is the first time you ever sent us anything we could use. That was telling, wasn't it? It wasn't a free lunch form. It wasn't anything. And then I told them where they could get the books. And I didn't say that there were bookstores. I said, you can get these at Target. I went to Toys R Us and made sure the books were in Toys R Us, because that's where my parents were shopping, you know? So you can do initiatives that connect families to school, and then wouldn't it be wonderful if you brought them in on a literacy night and showed them how to read to their kids, showed them how to answer questions, showed them how to connect the internet to what the kids are reading in the 6th and 7th grade. You can do that. You have the power to do that. So it's a wonderful thing for us to be like the Pope. Who are we to judge, you know? Since they might cut me off, I'm going to go ahead and say, they said 45 minutes, and I said, okay, all right. Hey, I won't do that, but it's all right. A flood of books of all genres matched to the students at every grade level. A flood. I didn't say a sprinkling. I said a flood. So many books in the classroom that they're tripping over them. I know that these kids will be texting in college more hours than they sleep. Did you see that? Anybody else see that on the news? I know that these kids will read more screens than they do pages. But while we have them, let's flood our classrooms with books so they get on the right foot. Okay, get started. More time reading. Anything that you want to do better, you need to spend more time doing it. You want to be a better lover, you should spend more time loving, all right? Whatever you want to do, you got to spend more time doing it. You can't spend less time doing it. Is that amen?
Amen.
Go to church, girl. Go to church. All the research says that our kids spend too little time actually engaged in the act. Some kids as little as 7 minutes a day. So the 20-20-20 rule, which is what I wrote about in my books, is a guarantee. If kids spend 20 minutes of being read to from high-quality literature, 20 minutes of reading high-quality literature, and 20 minutes of at-home reading practice, they will be readers. So they need to do that more time actually reading. What else? 0 to 4, I can't say it again, language development is so important in that age level. Here's where the crux of things are. Family and community involvement efforts are not optional. It used to be you could say, well, you know what, I'm going to do this in spite of the parents. I'm not going to involve the parents. Not anymore. We have come to a fork in the road. And now, in order to get all that you are being held accountable for, all that we know that kids need if they're going to be college and career ready, you have to involve their parents. You have to involve their families. You have to involve grandma and grandpa and both their daddies. All right. I was in a classroom and the teacher said, how are you today, Adam? And he said, I had a good weekend. I saw both my daddies. I said, okay, all right. I ain't going to say nothing else. Tutor at the first sign of difficulty. This is so simple, I don't understand why we don't pay attention to it. We know that tutoring helps kids who are struggling readers. But yet, I don't see tutoring programs set up to help kids in every classroom situation. We know this works. Tutor the kid. One-to-one is best, But they've done a lot of research that said as long as you can reach out and touch the kid, 1 to 5 is all right. So tutor. Next. Motivate with incentive programs and specific praise. We all like to be praised, so do kids. You should know 100 ways to say good job. Specific praise. You read this book and you read it well. Talk about books. Provide books and the list for summer reading. Don't just give them a list, actually give them the books. If you have a librarian that bans kids from the library until they have a beard because they lost a book, get rid of her. All right? Because a kid, if they lost it, some other kid who needed it probably found it, right? So let the books go home. Do some whole school, bring the school and the community together by reading a book whole school. Everybody in the school, everybody in the community reads the same book. Oprah made a fortune doing that. Oprah said, we're going to all read this book. And everybody did. People missing Oprah now because they're not selling as many books as Oprah's not doing. Hook kids with technology products that require reading. Balanced literacy. Flip-flopping the classroom, making sure that you have technology involved. Because these kids, their right hand is technology. You can't ignore this. These kids are texting. Some people say texting is ruining their ability to read. I don't agree with that. Because they're using texting, I think they're finding out how important it is to communicate. They weren't doing that much writing before texting anyway. They weren't writing a whole bunch of letters to each other. I mean, let's just be real. But at least with texting, at least they see the value of being able to communicate. And there is no comprehension of text without reading. So the three go together. All right. Hire and develop great teachers. I come back to that again. Nothing is more important than the teachers that you have. And believe me, they are not going to come to you with all the skill set that they need. So in-service professional development is the way you're going to have to go. Because I work with these schools of education, and they are some tough nuts to crack, all right? That's a whole nother study, all right? Research shows, can you read that one with me? Research shows that involvement in children's literacy development remains crucial regardless of the home language or reading ability of the parents and family. Even if the mother and father or grandmother do not read, they still need to be involved. They still can say, you have homework, and I know you have homework every night, 20 minutes of reading. They can still say, let me hear you read. Let me listen to you. Even if they don't speak the same language that the child is being taught in, it's still important that they promote literacy in the home. Read this one with me. The most powerful communication is face-to-face. Thus, the school site should feature reading and literacy opportunities at every turn for families to directly mingle with school staff. Face-to-face. They need to see you all. Talk the talk and walk the walk. This reminds me of a strategy called Money in the Bank. The first contact of the year should be a positive contact. Now, in some of these schools and classrooms, you better do that the first day, because after that, you may not be able to make that positive contact. But when you make the positive contact, don't ask for nothing. You don't give them a free lunch form. You just say, we are happy to have, what's your name?
Yolanda.
Yolanda, we're happy to have you in our school, in our class.
Thank you.
That's all you got to do. We're here. You know what KIPP Academy says? Says that they call every parent and give the parent their phone number and say, you can call us at any time. And the KIPP Academy parents said that was the first time anybody said, you can call me. Now, I don't know if you want to do that. I'm just telling you that some people have done that and it works. It says something to the parent. is that I am with you on your child getting a good education. Productive family involvement and well-designed standards-based homework can promote academic achievement and generate positive emotional benefits for both students and parents. Send home homework. Parents can help you with spelling. There's usually only one way to spell a word. They can help you with that. They can help you with math, can't they? A lot of times. Sometimes if you get in the 8th and 9th grade, you look at that stuff now, I can't help you. But sometimes they can. So don't forget that parents help with homework. Now, Karen Mapp will tell you, she has a video where the parents came into the school and the teachers taught them how to help the kids with the homework. So you can always make good great by doing what we know works. If you have a mailbox on your table, raise your hand. Okay, everybody around there? Here's a mailbox story for you. There was a young student, about 7 years old, learning to read. He was enthralled with learning to read, because you know, if you ask kids why they go to school, they'll tell you, I'm going because I'm learning to read, right? He waited for the mailman to come every afternoon. One afternoon, he opened the screen door and said to the mailman, "Do you have any junk mail?" And the mailman said, "Why do you want junk mail?" He said, "Because I want junk mail so I can practice my reading." The mailman said, "Do I have junk mail?" He put it online. Anybody else hear this news story when it was out? He put it online, and in the child's mailbox started to come books from all over the world to help him to read. They followed up with a follow-up story on ABC News where they built a bookcase in his home for the books. People from all over the neighborhood had started donating the books. We want to create kids like that, who want to read so bad that they ask the mailman for the junk mail so they can read. True story. You can look it up. Every student to graduate, this can and must happen. All of our kids have to graduate because reading is their new civil right. And there are no excuses. If you read this is what a lot of the charter schools say. They say there's no excuse. Poor families, no matter what, low income, everybody can learn to read. This is good. How many like this statement? Pretty good. What's wrong with it, though? Karen, you cannot respond. What is wrong with it? No family engagement. Doesn't say anything. Say, we're going to do it in spite of you. That doesn't work anymore. Parents need to trust the schools. Parents need to feel that they are collaborating with you for the best for their children. They can smell it if you don't like their kids. And that's what this is saying. We don't like your kids, but we gonna make it happen whether you help us or not. All right. Why do we have the highest college dropout rate in the industrialized world? America is too good for this. We are too great of a country. I don't want to say that too much. I might sound like Donald Trump. But we are. We are too great to have this kind of statistic. And it bothers me. It bothers me when jobs are overseas and the reason they claim is because our kids can't do them. Every time I call American Express and I say American Express, and I can tell by the static on the phone I'm going overseas. You know, you get those calls. I have 2 American Express cards, so when I don't pay one, I call on the other one, You got to do what you got to do. So when I call to ask about the bill and say, you didn't send me a bill, that's why I didn't pay it. They say, and I don't know that they did send it because I'm never home. So I get somebody and they say, we're happy to help you, Phyllis. Like, you mean there's some kid, there's Detroit that could be answering this phone? All right. Now, I was fortunate enough to speak at Stanford's Black graduation. Did you know they have a Black graduation at Stanford? They do. They have the regular graduation and they also have a Black graduation. The reason why they have a Black graduation is because one year, whoever was the keynote speaker back at the baccalaureate said that Black people were on a bell curve or something and the students had to walk out. It was back in the 60s. Y'all don't remember, but those were turbulent times. So ever since then, they've had a Black graduation. So I got a chance to speak at it this time. And what I noticed about the graduates at the Stanford graduation is every one of those kids was in a STEM profession. Every one of them was going into, even the social things were social scientists. Everybody had a STEM graduation. And this is my Sarah here who graduated. I took a picture with her. And here in the first picture is something that nobody else is going to talk to you about, but I will talk to you about it. Those are African-born Americans, okay? A preponderance of them in the graduating class. Many of them going on for their PhD. See, what has happened is the statistics of how many Black people are graduating is very skewed when you count the Africans that are graduating. See, those are not regular old Black people right there. All right? Those are it's a different thing. So when you see the Stanford graduation, you think, ooh, whoa, 117 Black people graduated. But it's a different story. Now, I don't begrudge them graduating because, they get hired, don't they? They get jobs. They go there in engineering. But it does tell the story that many of the kids in our public schools that were born and raised here are not doing so well. But if you just look at the statistics of Stanford, you would say, wow, it's not that bad. It's bad, y'all. Okay? It is. Shut out of the military. It used to be that we could just say, hey, if we get you through, you can always go into service. Mm-hmm. Hi, Kelly. How you doing? You got a brother?
Yes.
What's his name?
Chris.
Kurt?
Chris.
Chris. See, Kelly would have probably been the A student. I know Kelly, and I'm sure she was. And we would say to Kelly, Kelly, we got your brother Chris. The best we can do for him is this. Maybe we can just get him through to graduation, then he can go into service. Tell your mother that, he can't do much else, but he can go into service. We can't do that anymore, can we? Does the service want anybody like that? Absolutely. I got 2 minutes, so let me hurry up. The service doesn't want anybody like that because you know what? I don't want anybody in the service that's not capable. Because they are programming drones, and they might program one, come back and hit my house. So I don't want that. There's so much to talk about, but you know what? I got to wrap up. I was going to tell you about the life that these kids will be so different than the one you're leading. So can you take me to the slide at the end, please, since I have to wrap up? I think they could help me with that. Yeah. I never want to close without showing you a book. This one is called Good Night Miami, and it's a book about it's informational text, which we know teaches vocabulary twice as fast as any kind of fictionalized text. You can teach vocabulary that way. So I definitely want to not end without saying that. And the last thing that I want to say is this. We do not want our schools to be so separated from the community that our schools become like hospice centers and we are working inside watching our kids die. On that, I will drop the mic.
Stay here. Stay here.
Thank you for your time and your attention.
Stay here. So we have time. That's why I want. So let me just.
Sure.
That was fabulous.
Thank you.
And it's one of the most comprehensive talks, not only on literacy, family. Why do I say comprehensive? Because you talked about practice reading, and then you talked about practice making love, which was like...
Hey, I can go there. I'm 68.
In one talk, that was... So, we have a couple mics in the room. Questions for Phyllis? There's one. Do we have mics in the room? I was told we do, but I have one. I have a big voice. It's Thea, right? Here's the mic, Thea.
Hi, Thea.
Thea Faulkner, Jackson Public School District. I am in awe of Queen Phyllis.
Thank you. I'm in awe of you all. I am.
So my question is, do you have any particular suggestions for engaging young black males, middle school particularly?
Actually, yes. You need to reach out to the community and bring some men in. Young black middle school students have had enough of us women. And you need to find some churches, or the Army, Navy, and Marines they reach out and come in the communities as well, and they really do respect them, and you need to bring them in. That would be the best thing I can say. The other thing I can say is, if you have a lot of white teachers teaching kids, because we don't have enough kids of color being taught by teachers of color, you have to shake hands with those white teachers, because that's what you have. That's what you're working with. And when you shake hands with those white teachers, you have to make sure that they understand how to work with your African American males. So it may be a look that they need to get, you know, because those of us who taught African American males in middle school that can smell themselves, you need to have the look. Because, you know, if I look at them, they're going to back up. Okay? And you need to make sure you follow through on whatever it is that you are doing. Make sure your people have followed through. Because once the kids know you're not going to follow through, they're going to test you out. So you definitely, say amen, brother, because I'm right. You definitely need follow through. So in summary, find some male mentors, bring them in. Make sure that your teachers who may be lacking in classroom management get some support in that area, professional development. And I spoke in LA with a couple of people who've developed curriculum around African American males. And Scholastic also has a couple of literature projects that give African American males voice. And that kind of calms them down if they are able to use their writing and reading as something that gives them voice.
Okay. One more question, Mr. Su.
Just very quickly, I'm Dr. Montoya, Superintendent, San Antonio area. 2 comments.
Yes.
Outstanding presentation, and I have an immediate job for you right now.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You can't have her. So, pardon me? Dan? Well, we have room. We have time for one more question.
Dan Gold, Broward County Public Schools.
Broward County. Yeah. Big district.
I want to give you 3 words and just sing as you put them together.
Okay.
We heard about engagement, which is about relationships. You inferred a lot about identity and how important literacy is to the development thereof. And then the third is an external pressure, which is standards. And you had it up there as standards-based. But the personal of identity, the community of engagement, and the expectations of standards. Sing.
I will sing. You know, I have a prayer that I composed about standards. It goes like this. Lord, give me the wisdom to accept what I can't change. You know, so you can't change that there's standards out there. You cannot change that. So you just roll with it. You just keep doing what you've done and recognize that people are always going to be putting constraints on you. Some of the people who have standards don't recognize that you have 25% of your kids that can't read. And nobody's even talking to you about how you address that. They're talking to you about close reading and whatever, and you're just trying to get your kids to read. So I'm saying that because you have those external standards, you recognize that they're there. You make sure that your teachers understand that you understand that they first have other hurdles that they have to cross. So don't be waving standards in their face like you were going to fire you, because who are you going to get to take their place? You know? I'm just saying. So, okay, that's what I have to say about standards. You know, encourage them with it. Kids' identity. Kids, first of all, our job is to give them academic language. They all bring all kinds of language to school, their home language, their first language. But in school, we do give them academic language. So I would focus on that. I would make sure that you focus on having your kids be able to express themselves accountably with accountable talk and academic language, because that will lead them to being able to talk about what they read. The more they read, though, the more they will have to be able to enter into discussion. So, and make sure that the books reflect them. Make sure that the books are mirrors that reflect their culture as well as windows to look out on other people's cultures. Make sure that they're both. You're welcome.
Fabulous job. Let's thank Phyllis again.